Emma stood at the head of the long dining table, carefully placing the last dish down while the room filled with laughter and conversation. The house was full that evening. Daniel's parents, his younger brother and his wife, and two of Daniel's business friends. The chandelier above the table cast a warm golden light, making everything look perfect, almost like a picture from a magazine. Emma had spent the entire day cooking, cleaning, and preparing for this dinner. She had woken up early, gone grocery shopping, decorated the table, ironed Daniel's shirt, and even helped him prepare some documents for an important meeting the next day. She was tired, but she smiled as she took her seat quietly beside her husband. Daniel was in a great mood. He had recently closed a big business deal, and everyone was congratulating him. "You're really successful now," his brother said. "You've built an amazing life." Daniel leaned back in his chair proudly. "Well, it wasn't easy, but I worked very hard to get here." Emma smiled softly, looking down at her plate. She felt proud of him too. She had been there from the beginning when he had nothing but ideas and stress and late nights. Then Daniel's friend laughed and said jokingly, "You're lucky, Daniel. You have a wife at home taking care of everything so you can focus on making money." Emma expected Daniel to smile or agree politely. Instead, he chuckled and took a sip of his drink. "Honestly," Daniel said casually, waving his hand, "she doesn't really do much. She contributes nothing financially. I'm the one who runs everything." The words fell into the room like something heavy breaking on the floor. For a moment, no one spoke. Emma felt her hands go cold. She wasn't sure if she had heard correctly. She slowly looked up at Daniel, but he was already talking to his friend again as if he had said something completely normal. Daniel's mother cleared her throat softly, clearly uncomfortable. His brother looked down at his plate. The conversation tried to continue, but the atmosphere had changed. The warm, happy feeling in the room had disappeared. Emma did not speak. She did not argue. She did not defend herself. She simply picked up her glass of water and took a small sip, her hand steady, her face calm. But inside, something was breaking very quietly. She thought about the years she had spent supporting him, the job she had left after marriage, the nights she stayed awake while he worked, the bills she organized, the house she managed, the family problems she solved, the endless small things she handled every single day so he could focus on his career. She said nothing for the rest of the dinner. But in that silent moment, while everyone avoided looking at her, something inside Emma changed. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a door closing forever. Emma and Daniel had not always lived in a big house with a long dining table and a shining chandelier. When they first got married, they lived in a small apartment with old furniture and a noisy fan that barely worked in the summer. Daniel was just starting his business back then, and most months were full of stress, unpaid invoices, and long nights. Emma had a stable job at the time. She was not earning a lot, but her salary paid the rent, groceries, electricity bills, and sometimes even Daniel's business expenses when he was short on money. She never complained about it. She believed in him more than he believed in himself. When Daniel wanted to quit his job to focus fully on his business, she was the one who encouraged him. When he failed his first project and wanted to give up, she stayed up all night with him, helping him reorganize his plans and write new proposals. She answered his client emails when he was too tired, helped him prepare presentations, and even suggested ideas that later helped him get new clients. But slowly, as Daniel's business started growing, Emma stepped back from her own career. First, she took a break to help him during a busy time. Then the break became permanent. There was always something more important: his meetings, his travel, his clients, his family events. Emma started managing everything at home. She paid the bills on time, planned family gatherings, bought gifts for relatives, remembered birthdays, scheduled house repairs, handled the bank paperwork, and made sure Daniel never had to worry about anything except his work. She reminded him about meetings, prepared his files, packed his bags for business trips, and made sure his clothes were always ready. She solved problems before he even knew they existed. His life was smooth and organized because Emma was quietly managing everything behind the scenes. But as the years passed and Daniel became more successful, he slowly forgot those early days. He started talking more about money, investments, profits, and status. He began to measure everything in numbers. And because Emma did not bring money home anymore, he slowly started believing that she did not contribute anything important. To him, success meant money. And money was something only he earned. He did not see the invisible work. He did not see the silent support. And over time, he stopped seeing Emma too. That night, after everyone left and the house became quiet again, Emma stood alone in the kitchen, washing the last few plates. The sound of running water filled the silence. Daniel had already gone upstairs, talking on the phone about work as if nothing had happened. Emma dried her hands slowly and looked around the kitchen. Everything was clean, organized, and in its place, just like always. She had spent years making sure everything in their life ran smoothly. Every small detail, every small responsibility, every small problem had always somehow become her responsibility. She walked upstairs quietly and entered the bedroom. Daniel was sitting on the bed, typing on his laptop. "Did you send that file I asked you to check?" he asked without looking at her. Emma stood there for a moment. Normally, she would have checked the file, corrected the formatting, and emailed it for him. She would have also reminded him about his morning meeting and prepared his documents. But tonight was different. "I forgot," she said calmly. Daniel looked up, slightly annoyed. "You forgot? Emma, that was important." She nodded slowly. "I'm sorry." She changed her clothes and went to bed without saying anything else. Daniel sighed and went back to his laptop. But Emma did not sleep for a long time that night. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying his words again and again in her mind. She contributes nothing. The words hurt more than she expected. Not because they were said in front of people, but because he truly believed them. That was the part that hurt the most. She thought about the early years of their marriage, the small apartment, her job, the bills she paid, the nights she stayed awake helping him with work, the life she slowly put aside so he could build his. She was not angry. She was not even crying. She just felt something inside her become very quiet and very clear. If he truly believed she contributed nothing, then maybe she should stop contributing. Not to teach him a lesson. Not to start a fight. Not to prove anything. Just to stop. To stop fixing everything. To stop reminding him of everything. To stop managing everything. To stop being responsible for everything. The next morning, Emma woke up early as usual. She made breakfast, but she did not remind Daniel about his meeting. She did not check his emails. She did not prepare his files. She did not lay out his clothes. When Daniel came downstairs, he looked around. "Where's my blue shirt? I have a meeting today." Emma took a sip of her tea and said calmly, "I'm not sure. It should be in the closet." He looked confused but said nothing. That morning was the beginning. Emma did not announce her decision. She did not explain anything. She did not argue or complain. She simply started stepping back from everything she had quietly been holding together for years. At first, Daniel did not notice the change. He assumed Emma was just tired or distracted. The house was still clean, meals were still prepared, and everything looked normal on the surface. But slowly, small things began to slip. The first problem came 2 days later. Daniel rushed out of the house, confident and prepared, only to realize halfway to his office that he had forgotten an important file for a meeting. Normally, Emma would have reminded him, double-checked everything, and even placed the file in his bag herself. He called her immediately. "Emma, where's the file for the Hassan deal?" "I think it's on your desk," she replied calmly. "You think?" he snapped. "You were supposed to remind me." There was a short pause. "I must have forgotten," she said quietly. Daniel ended the call, frustrated. The meeting did not go well. Then came the bills. A week later, the electricity went out in the middle of the evening. Daniel looked around in confusion. What happened? Emma looked up from her book. "I think the bill wasn't paid." Daniel frowned. "You always handle that." "I didn't this time," she replied simply. Now he was annoyed. "Emma, these are basic things. Why are you being so careless lately?" She did not argue. She just returned to her book. The problems did not stop there. Daniel started missing appointments because no one reminded him. His clothes were no longer neatly prepared. Sometimes they were wrinkled, sometimes missing. Important calls slipped his mind. His office work became disorganized because Emma was no longer helping him review documents or manage his schedule. At home, things slowly became less perfect. Groceries ran out unexpectedly. Family birthdays were forgotten. Invitations were not sent. His mother called one day, upset that Emma had not arranged a family dinner like she usually did. Daniel began to feel overwhelmed. His once smooth and controlled life was turning messy. Small problems kept appearing everywhere, and he had no idea how they had always been handled so easily before. One evening, after a long and stressful day filled with mistakes and missed deadlines, Daniel sat alone in the living room. The house felt different, quieter, heavier. He looked around and noticed something for the first time. Emma was sitting across from him, calm and distant, reading her book. She was still there, physically present, but everything she used to do was gone. And suddenly, it all started to make sense. The reminders. The organization. The planning. The invisible work. It had never happened on its own. Emma had been doing it all. Slowly, Daniel felt something unfamiliar settle in his chest. Realization. The tension in the house grew heavier with each passing day until Daniel could no longer ignore it. One evening, after another exhausting day filled with mistakes and frustration, he walked into the living room and found Emma sitting quietly, reading as usual. She looked peaceful, untouched by the chaos that had taken over his life. "Emma," he said, his voice tight, "what is going on with you?" She looked up slowly, calm as ever. "What do you mean?" "Don't do that," he snapped. "You've changed. You don't take care of anything anymore. The house, the bills, my schedule, everything is falling apart. Why?" Emma closed her book gently and placed it on the table. She looked at him for a long moment, her expression steady, her eyes clear. Then she said, very quietly, "You said I contributed nothing." The words hit him harder than he expected. "So, I stopped." Daniel stared at her, unable to speak. For a moment, he had no defense, no argument. Just silence. "I didn't mean it like that," he said finally, his voice weaker now. "I was just honest." Emma finished calmly. "You didn't say it by accident, Daniel. You believed it." He looked away, guilt slowly replacing his frustration. For the first time, he saw everything clearly. The years she had given, the things she had handled without recognition, the life she had quietly built around his. "I was wrong," he admitted softly. "I didn't see it before, but I do now." Emma said nothing. "I'm sorry," he continued. "For what I said. For how I made you feel. I took everything for granted." The room fell silent again, but this time it felt different. Emma stood up slowly. "I didn't stop because I was angry," she said. "I stopped because I finally understood my value." Daniel looked at her, unsure of what she would do next. "I won't go back to how things were," she added calmly. "If I stay, things will be different. I won't carry everything alone anymore." Daniel nodded, his voice quiet. "I understand." And for the first time in a long while, he truly did. Moral. Not all contributions are measured in money. The quiet, invisible efforts that hold a life together deserve respect, because without them, everything slowly falls apart.